Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel here. It's the Mac, and welcome back. Right, you might notice a new game, and it's the Great Northern War. Great Northern War, man, released from Wargame Design Studios. Latest release. And what an anticipated game. Wow, this game, man, it's been highly anticipated in their pike and shot series, musket and pike. Sorry. So I want to first thank Wargame Design Studios for letting me have a review copy of the game here to show you guys if it's worth buying or not. Which I can already tell you, if you're into this, this is a really good title. Anyway, let's get back. Right. So as you will see, big changes, man. If you come from the Napoleonic series or the American Civil War series, you will already, and even Panzer campaigns these days, they've made a lot of updates now. They're working like around the clock basically to bring all the games, the stock of their games in Wargame to the latest versions, the 4.0. 4.0 and upwards. Some games are actually up to 4.5 now. I think some of the Napoleonic titles are up to 4.5. So they're adding constant upgrades and listening to the community and giving that love to the games. Right, so let's before we actually go into the game and stuff, let's have a look at some stuff. So let's check out the page. So here it is, the Great Northern War's latest release. And if we go into the game series, as you all know, maybe not all of you, but many of you guys are playing these games and follow me. So these are the time periods represented by Wargame Design Studios. So the Civil War, very popular age of warfare to play, and the Napoleonic titles. These are probably the biggest most people play, and of course Panzer campaigns for the World War II fanatics. And squad battles too. So these are some, and Panzer battles have been very well received. I must say, I love the Panzer battle series. It's a sort of a mix. It's sort of a between Panzer campaigns and squad battles. So you have all three, from platoon up to battalions and so forth. Right. So the musket and pike has been sort of neglected for a long time, but is now getting a lot of love from the developers. So Renaissance, I've covered both these games on my channel. Renaissance, as you know, I'm still actually covering a PBM game, playing that, and such a lovely game. So these games here, and the 7-Year War is actually a very nice title as well. They are going to get the latest updates, and we are looking forward to that a lot, because they haven't been really that much pumped up for the last... For a very long time. But the Great Northern War, man, is going to have all that love that those other titles are going to get. And it looks really slick, man. Really nice. Right, so this is what it looks like when on the webpage here. So I will go in a bit about history as well. As you all know, well, maybe not all of you if you're watching this for the first time, but many of my core followers know that I am from Sweden, actually, from the south of Sweden. And so this game is basically centering around my history, basically. And that feels kind of weird, because such a long time ago now. I mean, it's over 300 years ago. So it feels kind of weird to actually have a game that's depicting your own. I mean, maybe not you guys who come from America and France and England and even Russia, of course, and other in Germany, of course, countries that have had like huge conquests and big glorious days in history. For Sweden, it's kind of sort of a hidden history. We're not very proud of our history, Swedes. I'm sorry. I don't know why. We just aren't. But some of us are, of course. But, I mean, we're sort of keeping quiet about what we've done and so forth. And we're not very proud of our wars. Even though we're actually petitioning to join NATO now. That's kind of a real shocker. But as we all know, The state of Europe and what the Russians are doing is just crazy stuff, and it needs to be stopped. Anyway, let's get back to the game here. Yeah, so this is depicting the just the Swedish Great War, basically, when we were at the height of our superpower. Basically, didn't last very long, but it was about 21 years. They would say that the Charles XII is actually called Kung Karl XII in Swedish, the 12th. Karl the 12th, Charles. They actually, but his name is Karl the 12th, and he was like a boy king that came to power there. So of course, before that, we have a lot of history. As I've actually covered some of that in my when I did the I'm doing the Kockenhausen battle now in Renaissance, and that's covering the sort of the fight and the conquest of Polish Lithuanian Empire, basically, and so this is sort of a aftershock of that, if you would say, when Sweden was actually reformed, and it wasn't actually Charles XII that did it. It was actually his father, Charles XI, that and even actually Charles X, because he was fighting the Danish for many years to retake Swedish territory that the Danish had conquered. And then Charles XI actually defeated the Danish, and they were sort of pushed out of Sweden, and we got Scania back. I mean, the Skåne, the south, and a bit north of that territory was retaken, and so that reformation of you could say that the Swedish army actually became professional army. Before that, it wasn't really a professional army. I mean, it was recruits, basically, from different towns and villages and stuff, and they gave them some arms and uniforms and get them to drill a bit and then throw them out into battle, basically. It was more of a rabble army, not very, I mean, it was organized, but I mean, it wasn't in any way near the organization level that actually came with King Charles XII, when the Caroline, we call them the Caroline. How do they actually be? I haven't even checked the. We're gonna look in the text files as well. So I'm babbling on here. But anyway, all of you have probably seen this page a lot. So I've just actually kept this page up because there's some new things added. That's probably going to be added to the other musket and pike series as well. All these new sort of upgrades and rules and special rules that they have that you can optional rules that you can click in and stuff, because there's a lot of feedback from the community and they take it serious and they really want the games to be played by everyone to enjoy them. So it's up to yourself what kind of rules and how sort of hardcore you want the game to be, or if you want it more casual and stuff. So it's really good that they actually do that, although it can sometimes be confusing to keep track of all these rules, but the PDFs are handy. You can read about them. Yeah, so there's going to be some great graphics updates. So they have 5 campaigns as well, and 69 scenarios. Yeah, 69 scenarios and 5 campaigns there. And some of these very famous battles here that took place. And 3D graphics have been improved as well. And these are the new optional rules that have been added. Kind of like some of these. I like this strict line of sight, because sometimes when you played and you could I wonder what kind of visibility I have from that hill over there. You wouldn't know that unless there was a unit on that hill, and in those days they didn't have any comms or radios or telephones. I mean, that rider had to ride up that hill, scout it, and then ride back, or if they were a team, send one horse back to report what they could see. I mean, it would be impossible for the commander way back to know what's behind the hill and stuff. So it sort of adds the fog of war to more realism. but there's tons of new stuff here that I like. I haven't really had time to go into it, but this column movement restriction is good as well, because if you are there's actually a chance of column, because you could basically just march everywhere in column formation, because that's sort of your travel mode for those people who are familiar with the Panzer campaigns. So moving in column would be you could basically just traverse any terrain and you wouldn't get any disruption. But now they actually have a rule for that, so that's good, I think, if you want to. And this is kind of fun as well. The AI improvements they've been given a lot of slack for this, Wargame Design Studios, and even went back in John Tiller days. I mean, for the AI being stupid. I mean, scripting these games, man, it must be a nightmare. It must be really hard. I mean, these games are actually probably made more for playing. It's like a social game to play with a human opponent in mind, because it's so complex. I mean, it would be very hard to program an AI to be really smart in a game like this, I would think, especially when there's so many different kind of units involved, different kind of movements, and different kind of strategies and formations, and to read the battlefield and know. I mean, a human does it best, but I mean, we'll get there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I actually don't know that stuff that well, but I would think it would be a nightmare. But it's probably possible, but it takes a lot of resources too, and a shitload of work to do that. But I got to tell you, I've actually played the getting started in this already to just get the feel of the game, and it was actually kind of a challenge, man. Okay, it is a pretty hard scenario. We'll go into that later on, but it was pretty tough, man. At some point, I was actually losing that battle, and then I sort of really regained myself, and it ended in a major victory. But it was tough. I really had to actually think and plan and stuff when I was playing versus the AI. You usually don't have to do that. So the user interface has been improved as well. We're going to have a look at that. So all this nice here has been implemented. So let's go into the getting started there. So yeah, that's the first. This is actually a scenario taken from the Battle of Poltava, one of the a really disastrous defeat for the Swedish army when they were trying to take on Russia. They were going into, it's actually Ukraine, but it was a Russian territory at the time, so that was the nail in the coffin for the great Swedish army there. They really had it was a pretty bad battle there. We'll go into that later on. Anyway, so getting started is that, and so really nice documentation for the getting started. It was really slick and well written. Really enjoyed playing this scenario. So to get the feel of it, it's linear warfare to start off with. You fight in a linear. I mean, you get your men into firing line and then engage the enemy. You don't attack in column formation this day and age of warfare, because they did that back in you have some of those elements in the Renaissance title, that some units actually fought in column formation, and that means it's kind of a different way of fighting, because now there's much more firearms, and the pikes are starting to lose. Well, there's still pikes and stuff and melee going on, but I mean the optimization of the battle was going more and more towards muskets and firing, and the firearms were taking over in cannons and stuff, and cavalry is actually still quite kind of powerful, I would say, in this kind of theater of war. You could get, I mean, if you have some really highly drilled cavalry and charge and mass into sort of lower quality units, you will shatter them, you will destroy them. And even if you do like flank or rear attacks, you will completely destroy them, because the cavalry was pretty badass, especially the Swedish cavalry was pretty badass. But the strength in the Swedes were the infantry and the tactics they used. So this is a very good scenario to play. I enjoyed it a lot. It was actually tough. It's the beginning stage of the Poltava battle when the Swedes engaged these really reinforced positions by the Russian army, and I mean the Swedish were hopelessly outnumbered in this battle. It was nuts. It was, I think the Russians had something like 80,000 men, and the Swedes had, I don't know, not even 20,000. I don't know. They were really outnumbered. But it's kind of fun to play it as you were rolling up the attack, and the Swedes were really powerful as well, man. There's some badass units there. You really get the feel of having like superior troops versus inferior troops, but numbers prevail, and it's, you know, the hordes, man. The hordes just overrun you and kill you, even though you run out of bullets and shit, man. You get overwhelmed. So that's the Russian tactics, man. Anyway, yeah, so this was really fun to play. So if you get the game, I advise you to play this scenario first, just to really get the feel of it. It was really well selected scenario. I really enjoyed it. Right, another big thing that has been upgraded is the manual, man. Let's see, is this a special notes? Yeah, that was it. Okay, the musket and pike user manual. This is probably going to be the standard manual now for even pike Renaissance and the 7-Year War. And it's pretty extensive now. It's good. It's over 100 pages now, and it's really good. It's revised and well written, and really slick, man. I really enjoyed browsing through this. I haven't read the whole thing because a lot of these things are sort of in the Renaissance and the 7-Year War as well. But there are some differences, of course, from every war and every sort of theater of war. There are some sort of not at least difference in tactics and units, but even in how to actually use your units, basically. And it's actually pretty well covered here. And you have the play modes are the same, turn versus phases. I really love phase play, man. I really enjoy it, but it's just very time consuming. You really need to have a lot of time on your side to do this, especially if you're doing PBM. If you do it like a hot seat night with beer and pretzels, man, this is good fun. But doing it by email, it's a lot of sending back and forth. So I think that what they've done to the turns now is pretty good. They've sort of made them more realistic, even though the phased play would probably be the most realistic way to depict this kind of warfare. As to, you know, they're still marching up, you know, forming a line, firing, and then reloading, and then the enemy fires back a volley, and back and forth, and then you charge and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's the way the battles were fought, especially in the initial contact of the fight. But then as the brutal fight went on and melee started, and it was like sort of chaos and carnage everywhere, and horses and shit, cannonballs flying and blood, and you know, people just killing each other, I mean, the madness of war, then it would just probably turn some, I mean, faces would be not really that effective. It'd just be a mesh of blood and guts. Right, so the game mechanics here, so they go over that. Most of this, if you guys have played and seen my Let's Plays, or even are like a veteran of these games, it won't be that much new. There's lots of graphical updates, which is going to be fun. I mean, it's fun. The artwork is amazing. Really good artwork in this. I like these pictures they made. It looks really cool. Very well, very nicely done. It's still the age of skirmishers and stuff. I mean, you have that all the way up to the Napoleonic Wars. So I guess the skirmishers probably play an even bigger role then, but there are skirmishers even in this sort of lightly armed troops to harass enemies and to act as buffers and protect units, and even hold like difficult terrain and stuff. So they're still useful, definitely. What else? I mean, there's lots of new stuff in here. Look at this cool picture they have of the winged hussars. Yeah, so it goes on. I think you could probably download this even though you haven't purchased the game from the site. So many of you guys probably checked it out, but I mean, it's all basically what I've been going over in other Let's Plays. This is the section of the optional rules, though. It's always very important. Uh, yeah, so it's quite extensive now. I do like their default settings. I think they're pretty good. They've sort of, they've tried different setups probably from test playing and stuff to see what actually is like the most, maybe not the most realistic, but most like, yeah, realistic and playable, I guess. So I enjoyed it. So basically, if you like it, but you want the face play, all you have to do is click that, and you have all this, but you have the faces instead of the turns. So this is actually a very important rule right here. All right. Um, what else is in here that's actually new? Not, I mean, they've actually implemented lots of other good stuff. It's all in here now, the parameter data and stuff. Usually that was like different PDFs, but they've added it all to the main manual, which is good. They even have the where is that? They said maybe, yeah, this about all the menu buttons and stuff. It's all here as well, which is really good. So let's turn to the almighty nodes, man. Yeah, the best, always the best part of the game. I love the burst. I mean, the designer notes for all the Wargame Design Studio games are always amazing. Really, really well written. Very good to follow. And even if you pick up a title that you're not sure of and you're sort of, what the hell is this? But it looks pretty cool. Always go by the designer notes, man, because you pick up so much stuff here. Backgrounds, details, man. It's all here. Rarely nowadays you need to go beyond the actual game content to learn about the conflict or the battles taking place, because most of it's actually in the designer notes. I mean, especially all the most important things. But if you want to go into specific battles of tactics and what happened and what commanders were there and stuff, yeah, of course you're gonna have to look up in books or the almighty YouTube, or just Google it and read on the web to get like the real details of the battles. But the overall is always here, which is really good, easy accessible as well. Yeah, so this it goes into the background there, that the king inherited it, and he was like the warrior king, man. he was he was known not to be so happy for negotiations. He always wanted to crush his enemies. He was that was one of his big traits. He never really, people tried to negotiate with him, but he had none of it. He just wanted his own way, and he wanted always to defeat his opponents, basically. So the Swedish military establishment, yeah, I went over that a bit there. There was about that the actual enemy, I mean, the Swedish army actually became a sort of a really enlisted professional army. That's why we actually managed to muster such a big force, because Sweden was like a very small population compared to many of the other states it was fighting. A very small population, and having, as it says, the biggest was 76,000 men. That is a shitload of men for Sweden in those days. It would even be today. It would be a lot to have a standing army. We don't have that big standing army in Sweden. Who knows now that we hopefully or maybe will go into NATO? Well, we probably might be getting some more professional army. Anyway, right. So they actually take up this. This is kind of funny. The geopel. It means geopel. It means how do they go at them? Yeah, okay, geopel. That means sort of, just keep at it, basically. Don't twitch, don't flinch, don't retreat. Just go and kill as many as you can, even though your life is in danger. Basically, berserk mode, man. And nerves of steel. Just even though you're people are dying left and right and people are being shot to pieces. Your goal is to get up there and kill as many as you can. And that was their sort of drill, you know. That's what they did. They were very aggressive and very disciplined. And even though they took horrendous casualties, they never flinched and never broke. They just went at it until everybody was dead, basically. So that was one of the strengths or weaknesses, you could say, of the Swedish army, that they fought bitterly, even though they took horrendous casualties, or even though, you know, they fought to the end, basically. And that is good in some battles, of course. Especially if you're facing like inferior enemies or like a low morale and low training, they will get scared and run away. I mean, even though, you know, you will cause panic among the ranks. And even the Swedish cavalry was very aggressive. I think they fought like in wedge formations, and they had swords and no lancers and stuff. They were fought with rapiers or swords, but they were very sort of shock cavalry. I don't think they were like heavily armed as well. Maybe they had a cuirass and stuff, but they weren't like wearing heavy armor and stuff. They just sort of blitzed in, man, just smashed in, and very fast and aggressive cavalry. So there was a collapse of Denmark there. So right about this time, Sweden sort of had basically defeated Denmark's ambitions of taking over Sweden, and I think he wanted to make a statement that it was, don't try it again, basically. So they had to sign the treaty there to not attack Sweden anymore, basically. And so they that's actually right at the beginning, before the Great War broke out between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Yeah, because they were still pissed off of Sweden. That if you remember King Sigmundsson, I was talking about him in Renaissance. The war with he claimed the Swedish throne, and the Swedes would have none of it. And this is actually an aftermath of that, because the Swedish was holding some of those northern territories still, and they had sort of an agreement with the nobility of Poland to don't get cocky, we're in charge, but it's okay that you're here, basically. But more and more they took their political sort of ambitions away from them, and in that sort of prelude, they wanted to kick the Swedes out, basically, and they would have none of it, and they still wanted to claim the Swedish throne, basically, and that's what this whole campaign was. That the king went in there. And it was a battle, basically, to subdue them and make them think, believe that Sweden is your ruler, basically. So there's lots of famous battles there that took place. So that's all covered here. And then, like all generals of great ambitions, you want to try on the Russian Empire, basically. And it's always going to kick you in the ass because of that ferocious winter and the scorched earth policy. That's what the Russians even used at this early stage. They used it even in World War II, but they even used it here. So there was winter time, of course, worst ever time to attack. And so it ended there in the Battle of Poltava there. And it was bad news. Actually, this here is actually, the Russians actually came and tried to intervene and fight the Swedish at the Battle of Narva and all that, and they were utterly defeated first by the Swedes. And Peter the Great, Peter the First, was pissed off, and he wanted revenge, Tsar Peter, and he actually did get his revenge in the end. But right in the start there, they were humiliated and defeated. They had a huge army, and Swedes had very little at the time, but they defeated these armies that were over twice or three times as large as themselves. So using those shock tactics that we talked about. Then there was a civil war here in the Commonwealth, and that this is all about when we actually gained those territories and subdued it. And it goes. Hey, it was a defeat of Saxony as well, and then we come into this terrible the offensive into Russia there, and it ended in that Battle of Poltava there. Yeah, so they actually fought pretty viciously there, and I think the Russians were lucky as well, because the king was actually hurt in one of the battles. He got shot in the foot, and stubborn as he was, probably he refused to get his wounds treated and stuff. He just kept going at it, but he couldn't actually participate in the Battle of Poltava. So he gave his commanding orders to I can't remember his name, but to a subordinate. But what he didn't know was that subordinate was actually not at terms with the rest of the generals. So he didn't actually pass on the proper details of the battle because he was, they had a feud going, and so the battle played out a lot different than actually what Charles XII wanted. So it was just lots of bad luck there. And so so they lost that, and he actually, here it is, the Battle of Poltava there, and he went back. He actually went to the Ottoman Empire. I think he lived there in the Turkish Empire. He had to escape there because the mighty army of Sweden was shattered. So he stayed there for a long time, and then I think. It passed something like 15 years until he returned to Sweden. I mean, the total time of his conquests, starting from the 1700. So he came back to Sweden, and he was just a former shell of himself, I think. And the Swedish people were tired, and they just had enough of war. And Finland was occupied by the Russians as well, and they were treating them like shit. And it was just, everything was going down. They started losing territories in Europe as well, the northern Germany and Denmark there, and the north of Poland. They were starting to lose those. They didn't have a standing army anymore, enough soldiers to defend all these places. So, and then, the Russian offensive into Finland there, that was, and then, right in the end, he went for a crusade into Norway. He wanted actually to weaken the Danish. But that's where he got killed. He got shot, and there's many different kind of rumors about that, how he died. Someone said someone shot him in the head with a button from his own uniform, and they should actually be proven now that's wrong. They think he died of a shrapnel from a cannon. These they fired these. Sort of shotgun shells. They had those. What are they called? They fired those big bursts when enemy infantry was getting close to the guns. They could fire these volleys, sort of shrapnel shots that went into the ranks and killed and maimed a lot of people. Instead of just firing a cannonball, that would just probably kill half as many. This shrapnel would just kill a lot of people and damage them and stuff. And they think he was hit by one of those in the head, so in the diameter of about 20 millimeter, I think. So he died. He was killed, and the army carried him back to Sweden, and half of them froze to death as they marched over the mountains of Norway. It was just terrible. And then after that, the great empire of Sweden was sort of over, and we actually had some big reforms as well in Sweden at that time. There was a lot of power actually taken away from the king and the ruling class, and there was more passed down to sort of parliament level and stuff, and they were sort of phasing out in Sweden at that time. They did some raids and stuff, and the war ends. So pretty interesting. I tried to summarize it in layman's terms there, but that's the sort of overall very rough history there. So the campaign, so they have 5 campaigns. They have the 70 to 7001 campaign there. Many of these famous battles, Swedish classic victory there against the numerically superior Russian. And they have the Polish campaign. These are some very interesting battles as well. They have the Russian campaign. which ended in tragedy. And then they had the Finnish campaign. There was Swedish forces actually fighting, because Finland was Swedish at the time. We tried to defend it, but we didn't have that many forces there. And then the king was in Turkey as well. So I mean, he wasn't the most famous commander. Wasn't present at so many of these battles. And then the Norwegian, and they had some other battles as well. I think that's pretty cool. Maybe some of them are what ifs. This covers all other battles not linked to any campaign. Okay, all right. So there's Stacket. Yeah, this is a famous one here. And then they have a sort of notes of the armies, all the tactics they use and stuff. It's quite extensive here, so it's good to have a read if you're sort of uncertain of what you're playing. What kind of strength and weaknesses you have, and then basically that's it. That's the almighty notes there. So let's get back to the game, man. Yeah, so look at this. So I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I mean, getting started, everybody's going to be playing, so I might as well fire that up. I guess we could do that. Just have a look at the graphics and stuff. So let's just put manual on both, so we can have a look. Yeah. So this is the. So the rules are quite extensive. These are the default rules that they recommend for all I think all scenarios. So let's fire it up a bit. So, Kingdom of Sweden, turn 1 of 12. Yeah. So they have the max zoom out, and the zoom out 2D regular view, I guess. Zoom out 3D and the 3D view here. So I like it, man. It looks good. So you can see a lot of differences here from the Renaissance, for instance. And this is taken for the Napoleonic, I think, that they now have the leaders on top. Here he is, the man of the hour, King Charles XII, and he would be in command of the whole shebang. Yeah, so there he is. Rating B, leadership B. He's pretty badass, and he has Reinhold at his disposal. He's also a very good commander, and they have Liv Drabanto. So these are sort of lifeguards, sort of. It's only 12 men, but they got melee 3 and 8+. So this sort of these bodyguards, basically. Yeah, so look at this. All this is new. It's all implemented from. They have roaming mode as well. So this is good if you want to. Because if you don't have roaming mode on, and nothing will happen. You have to click the hex. But with roaming mode, you can actually quickly. Oh, what's this? Okay, what's this here? It's pretty good. They have the jump map. So I like this, very nice. There are different icons as well. For instance, these are actually default when you buy the game and install it. This is what it looks like. I kind of like these. They were sort of new to me since I haven't played a lot of the Napoleonic battles lately. I mean, I haven't since I did Leipzig basically. So, but these I like them. I think they're pretty slick. You can. So you have unit symbol. No, yeah, you do unit symbols. So you can have NATO. These counters. These are the ones I actually play with when I do Renaissance. I like these as well. I do. Well, I think these are pretty good. Sort of infantry. And now you have. So they have the overall commander there. B would be, is that brigade or battalion? Probably battalion leader. D would be divisional commander. Yeah, so he's the divisional commander there, and B would be the brigade. Yeah, the brigades there. Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, so I like those. I think they're pretty slick as well. What else they have? They have the block. Yeah, so this is a new one, kind of interesting. Not my favorite, but that's the job, I guess. I would probably prefer playing with the NATO or the alternate. I think the alternate is pretty good. Actually, I'm going to be using NATO now because I like it. Where is it? Yeah, I like these, man. These are cool. Yeah, what else? Map contours and stuff. Change all that. You can change the width. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't notice any difference there. It's just 2. Yeah. So standard game here, you know. So here are the Russians. You're just gonna go with the Swedes and attack and take these redoubts. And look at the forces here, man. It's nuts. And they actually had a fortified camp. Yeah, it says here Russian fort with lots of infantry and guns here. So this was just the first part of the army they fought. Look how small the Swedish force is, man. This is actually kind of a hard scenario to play. I was struggling with this. It was pretty tough. They're dug in here. You know, okay, they got the crappy morale, which is... but they do have these guns that are pretty annoying. And I think they even have some heavy guns as well. The heavy guns are in the back here. Yeah, these are vicious, these 12-pounders. And all this cavalry. There's a lot of cavalry here. I think they even have some Cossacks and stuff. Maybe this could be... Yeah, this is the Cossacks here. Mixed weapons and stuff. They still have like spears and bows and stuff. And probably some guns as well. But very mixed. The Cossacks are not that great, but they're irregular as well. But can be very dangerous if your units are routed or if they rush you in the flanks and stuff. So I think most of these are the Russian forces there. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if they're going to release some. I don't know. I don't think these are hand drawn. They do have those beautiful maps. You might have to download them separately from the site. The hand-drawn maps. Some of them look really, really nice. Is there a way to turn off the... Yeah, that. Yeah, that would be better. I like it. I'm not sure. I'm actually going to check the site real fast here. No, so there aren't any here. Is it the Civil Wars? They have the yeah. So they have 3D maps here for these, the hand-drawn ones. The 3D hand-drawn maps are the same files that were released. There's no need to do a new download of them if you already have them. So be sure to, okay, so yeah. But that's from the Civil War there. So that I don't think they have for the musket and pike. Where is it? Here. No, so it's just basically the patches. Okay, yeah. So good stuff. There, yeah. Okay, let's check out some more stuff. Actually, these actually do look hand drawn. I think that looks pretty slick, especially if we zoom out. I mean, these woods here look pretty nice. I guess it takes time to get used to it. I've always played my games with 2D. I'm gonna maybe start duking it out in 3D, just to change up a bit. Yeah, so many good battles here. So I mean, we could, for fun, just fire up the Poltava, and you will see the damage. No. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. This is the full Poltava battle. I mean, look at this. Pretty small force compared to all this. I mean, look at these guns, man. So the Swedes actually, historically, they smashed through here. and they made all these guys rout, and they fought through here, man. And then they sort of coordinated wrong, and I think one continued taking so much damage they actually retreated off the field of battle, but they were pursued and destroyed ultimately. But then the Swedes formed up here and did a frontal charge, man, right into these guns, and they were destroyed by the guns, man. So many heavy casualties. And as they were actually attacking, yeah, I think he's here, the main man. Yeah, Tsar Peter the First is here. He sort of released his infantry outside, formed up in big lines, and so the Swedish wanted to match those lines, and they formed up, but they were so thinly lined up, and the Russians had like mass of infantry here, and they sort of charged right into them, and they actually managed to take out quite a lot and destroy a lot of units before they were massacred and overwhelmed. But it was, man, must have been a mad battle to watch that. Okay, what else is here? There's so many good stuff here. You have Narva. This is a famous battle as well. Yeah, so this battle was interesting. The Russians were dug in and prepared here, but they had some really crappy troops here, though, and lots of guns and stuff. Look at the force they attacked, the Swedish force it's attacking here. It's not a lot. And they actually attacked in a snowstorm as well, which helped them. There was a big-ass blizzard going on, and the visibility was very limited. So the Russians were suddenly just fallen upon by these pretty aggressive troops. This is when the Swedish army was at its absolute best. They had some really drilled troops here. They had some guns lined up there, and they fought. And what they did was, I think they smashed through here. And some of these Russian units fled, and they tried to actually flee across this bridge, and it collapsed, and a lot of them drowned and died in the river. And then I think they made some sort of stand either here, I can't remember, and they were ultimately defeated and stuff. But it was a stunning victory for the size of this army to defeat this huge army here. And the defenders of Narva was not that many, actually. Yeah, not that many guys here. Musket and pike these guys have, yeah. So, yeah. Musket and axe. That's pretty cool. They only have muskets and swords, yeah. We didn't have that many pike. Yeah, some of them had pikes, yeah, to fend off cavalry and stuff, but majority had guns. Yeah, so very interesting. So this is what the winter graphics looks like. What else? The Trondheim would be fun to see. This is the last of the battles of in Norway there. Wow, looks pretty good. I like it. As you can hear, there's background sound. The sound effects are basically haven't been hampered with that much. It's sort of the same sound effects. There's no music, which would be really nice to have some 16th century or 16th century classical music playing in the background during these battles. That adds a lot, but there's no music. You could turn background music on, but there's no music actually in the game. I did check the sound folder, but maybe that's something they could add, or you could probably put in your own favorite music there, and you could have that playing in the background. But I do like that they've implemented that background, the clatter of horses and background noise, the battle sounds, adds a lot than just being completely silent and just moving your units around. I think even they have implemented the movement sounds, actually. So if I were to move these guys, yes, you can hear. They're sounds. There would probably be sounds for the infantry as well. Yeah. Yeah, there's sounds. And for the guns as well. Yeah, there's sounds. Cool. Yeah, so I'm not sure what else I would say about this game. I think I've rambled on a lot. Um, yeah, so yeah, another tactic. These Carolina, these Swedish infantry, it was that they had that go pill or go, have a go at them, go on, and what they had a quick step march. They weren't like marching at the same pace as many of the enemy armies they met. They sort of had a quick step. Sort of they moved in rapid movement formation forward. In tight formations, even though they were taking casualties and being shot at, they didn't break up or anything. They just sort of marched really fast up to the enemy, and they saved their volleys. They didn't fire at unnecessary long ranges. They had a thing that if you can make out your enemy's feature in their face, that's the right time to fire your gun. You would be in perfect range. So that was something new that they brought to the battlefield that shocked many of the enemies, because they would usually start firing volleys maybe a bit too early and stuff, or just firing sort of whenever. But they sort of saved their fire, and they made a concentrated, very effective barrage, and then they charged basically. So they would kill a lot of people in those shock firing, when everybody fired at the same time at quite a close range, and most of them would probably hit their mark and kill a lot of enemies at the same time, and that would just cause a massive disruption among the ranks to suddenly see so many people die in front of you, and then suddenly those guys that just fired charge really fast up and smash into your lines. That would cause panic and disruption among the enemy. So that was also a very unique aspect of the Carolina when they fought the enemy. Yeah, and the artillery was very good as well. The Swedish artillery, it evolved. They made some really good guns. They were pretty good gun makers, and so the artillery was very effective. Compared to the enemy. So even though they had usually less guns, they were more accurate than the enemy, and could actually hit their targets faster. So many things that changed the warfare that would later become standard among many others. And even though the Russian army was really shit in the start and got defeated very easily, they went through a big reform. Peter I made a big reform of the army as well, and they were pretty dangerous foe there towards the end. He had managed to get the Russian army to a disciplined fighting force basically. So, but before that, they were sort of a pushover for the Swedish army there. Yeah, so enough about that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do a Let's Play of this, man. And I'm hopefully getting some PBM battles going with some of my gaming buddies, man, because this is a fun game to explore. So, I don't know. You guys be the judge, I guess. I haven't decided upon anything, really. There's so many good battles here. So, I'm going to give one of these a go, definitely. And test the AI. See if it's good in all the others. I think it was pretty good in the getting started, actually. As I said before, I was taken back a bit of some moves the AI did that it usually doesn't do. When I played a lot of these games, and I sort of know usually what the AI will do. But I was sort of, wow, okay, that's cool. He did that, and that was a surprise charge. So it's looking good, man. It's looking really good. So I'm going to end the video here, man. I don't know how long I'll be talking. Probably a long time. But I'm going to end it here. And I do recommend you guys, if you like this warfare in this era, do check this game out, man. It's good. It's good. It's really good. And I want to thank Wargame Design Studio again for letting me have a copy here to review. And hope you guys get this game. And looking forward to all the great updates for the Renaissance and the 7-Year War as well. It's going to be really fun to see those games getting a bit of love. I just hope they don't take away the music in the Renaissance. It's the best ever. I love that music in that game. So more of that, man. If they could get some more good soundtracks to the games, that would really add it a lot of flavor as well. So yeah, so I want to end it here. I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next videos. Like and subscribe, man, and I'll see you later. Have a good one.